In the summer of 1979, two men from California set out on a mission. They weren't looking for money. They weren't seeking revenge. They wanted to hunt. Over 5 months, Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris kidnapped, tortured, and murdered at least 5 teenage girls. They used pliers, ice picks, and power drills tools they stored in a van they called Murder Mac. But what makes their crimes uniquely disturbing is that they recorded the audio of their victims' final moments. This is the story of the Toolbox Killers, two men who turned a van into a torture chamber, and who shocked even hardened detectives with the evil they unleashed. Lawrence Bittaker was highly intelligent with an IQ of 138. He was also a career criminal. By the time he met Roy Norris in 1977, Bittaker had already spent much of his life in prison. Norris, too, was no stranger to violence. A diagnosed sociopath, he had a history of sexual assaults and violence against women. The two met in San Luis Obispo Men's Colony, a California state prison. While most inmates just served their time, Bittaker and Norris bonded over something else: their shared fantasies of rape and murder. By the time they were released in 1979, they had made a pact. They were going to kidnap and torture teenage girls. And they weren't going to stop until they got caught. Bittaker purchased a silver 1977 GMC cargo van. It had no windows in the back. He outfitted it with a bed, coolers, and a stash of tools, pliers, hammers, a sledge, a power drill. They nicknamed it Murder Mac. Driving along the California coastline, they offered teenage girls rides. Some escaped, others weren't so lucky. Their first known victim was Lucinda Schaefer, 16 years old. She was walking home from a church event. Bittaker and Norris abducted her, gagged her, and drove her into the mountains. For hours, they took turns assaulting her. Then they decided she had to die. Norris strangled her with a wire coat hanger while Bittaker tightened it with pliers. They threw her body off a cliff. That was just the beginning. By their third and fourth victims, Jacqueline Gilliam and Leah Lamp, both teenagers, the killers began recording audio tapes of the torture. The tapes would later become some of the most infamous evidence in California criminal history. One recording was over 17 minutes long. Even seasoned investigators wept after hearing it. It contained the screams, the begging, the drills. Bittaker can be heard taunting one girl, laughing as he turns on a power drill. "You're doing great," he says on the tape. But she wasn't. In total, they abducted at least 5 victims, each subjected to hours of horror before being murdered and discarded in remote areas. Their spree might have continued, but one mistake unraveled them. Norris, the weaker of the two, bragged about the murders to an old prison buddy. That man went to police. Detectives set up a sting. When they searched Bittaker's van and home, they found photos of victims, physical evidence, and the tapes. Bittaker was emotionless during questioning. Norris quickly flipped, offering full confessions in exchange for a plea deal. The public was horrified. Even seasoned law enforcement officers were shaken. Bittaker was convicted of 5 counts of murder and sentenced to death. He spent the rest of his life on death row until dying in 2019. Norris received 45 years to life after taking the plea. He died in 2020. The Toolbox Killers became infamous not just for their brutality, but for the sheer joy they seemed to take in causing pain. To this day, the audio recordings are sealed from the public. Only law enforcement and trial personnel have heard them in full. Many who did say it was the worst thing they've ever listened to. Some killers leave behind a body. Others leave behind a sound. The Toolbox Killers didn't just murder. They recorded evil itself. Like, follow, subscribe for more.